This is the 2025 AICE LITE Plus neck fan that Ranvoo released this year. This unit was sent to me for free by Ranvoo, but they did not get to preview this video before I released it to you guys. So without further delay, let's find out whether this neck fan is worth it or not. What sets this neck fan apart from the regular neck fans is that this one has hot and cold mode. This is because it has conductive aluminum plates on the inner surface. Over here, you can see that the aluminum plates turning cold when I set it to the cold mode at highest intensity. It responds pretty quickly and you can see a visible cold spot within less than 10 seconds. At the 30-second mark, it fell to 25.4 degrees Celsius, which is 6.3 degrees Celsius lower than the temperature it started at. At the 1 minute mark, it dropped to 23.5 degrees Celsius. The lowest temperature it managed to hit was 22.4 degrees Celsius at around the 1 minute and 50 second mark. This represents a 9.3 degrees Celsius drop from the 31.7 degrees Celsius that it started at. In real world usage, it does feel quite comfortable on the neck on a really hot day, and you can actually feel the condensations forming on the cold plates. Here is another thermal image of my skin temperature after using the cold mode at highest intensity for 5 minutes. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that I saw many reviewers describing this as a portable air conditioner. This led me to expect cold air to be coming out of this fan, much like how an air conditioner would. But after using it, I think that the fan isn't exactly pushing out cold air. Rather, it's more like having two separate cooling mechanisms in one. The first cooling mechanism is of course the fan, and the second mechanism is the cooling plates. Since my wind speed sensor is capable of measuring temperature as well, I found that there's not much difference in the temperature of wind coming out of the neck fan in fan mode as well as in cold mode. So this kind of supports my subjective opinion that it's not really an air conditioner in the traditional sense, but more like having two separate cooling mechanisms built into one neck fan. I did bring this neck fan with me on one of the hiking trips up one of the hills in Singapore, and because that day the weather was just so warm, it has the same issue as most handheld fans have, and I believe most fans in general have, and that is the fact that if your surrounding temperature is extremely warm, the neck fan will be producing warm air, and it is not something that the cooling plates manage to address. I tested the hot mode as well and found that it also heats up pretty quickly. You can see a visible hot spot within less than 10 seconds, and at the 30 seconds mark, it went to 39.2 degrees Celsius. The neck fan hits its maximum temperature at 47.8 degrees Celsius at the 3 minutes and 26 seconds mark. This is 16.5 degrees Celsius higher than the 31.3 degrees Celsius that it started at. Because I live in a tropical country that is generally warm all year round, I couldn't really give you the most accurate experience with this neck fan in a cold environment. However, I did manage to find a cafe with extremely cold air conditioning. I typically cannot stay in here for more than 30 minutes because I would literally start to shiver and my hands will feel extremely cold. But when I used this neck fan in hot mode, it felt really cozy over my neck when I'm in the cafe. It is also extremely comfortable when I used it as a hand warmer, and I find myself being able to tolerate the cold a lot longer for more than 2 hours. Which makes me think that if you're someone who gets cold easily or you work in an office with very strong air conditioning, the heat mode on this neck fan might be able to help you deal with the cold. I know most people are probably looking at this neck fan for its cooling feature, but I think that the heating feature is actually pretty underrated. But one thing I noticed about the hot mode on this fan is that the warm temperature is not really consistent throughout. If I were to bring up the temperature test that I showed you a while ago, you can see that the temperature actually drops if I were to let it go on a bit longer. I'm not sure what's the reason for this. Perhaps it is to prevent the fan from overheating, or maybe it is for safety reasons. Now let's talk about the fan mode. The neck fan outputs air through the two air outlets along the arms to direct wind upwards, and it also has outlets at the bottom to direct air at your upper back. There is a large air vent at the back to draw air in, and this year's version has more openings to take in more air. Ranvoo claimed that this design lets this year's neck fan produce 80% more airflow compared to last year's version. I find this claim to be quite difficult to test because there are many air vents on this fan, and in my experience with neck fans, it's quite tricky to get an accurate reading out of each vent since my wind speed sensors won't really be able to get a good seal around the vents. But based on my subjective testing, the wind at its lowest fan speed is sufficient whether you are standing or walking. but you'll need at least level 2 fan speed if you start walking faster, because the wind you get from walking will start to cancel out the wind coming out from this neck fan. And similar to the Jisoo Life Pro 1 neck fan, I feel that the wind is concentrated on my jaw and cheek area only rather than my entire face. This is supported by the image from my thermal camera, showing that there's lesser heat emitted from my jaw and cheek region. As for whether the wind coming from the air outlets at the back are sufficiently strong, I feel that they only cover a small surface area of my upper back, and I can only feel it when the skin on my back is exposed. With clothes on, I can't really feel it at all. Now let's talk about the sound. At lowest fan speed, I don't think it's quiet enough to use in a library, but it's definitely quiet enough on public transport or in an office environment. The fan noise becomes much less bothersome once you have your earbuds or your headphones on. But one big advantage that this neck fan has is that it can achieve additional cooling without an increase in noise. With a regular neck fan, the only way to increase the cooling effect is to increase the fan speed, which then generates more noise. But because the cooling plates on this neck fan operates silently, it is able to provide additional cooling without a noticeable increase in noise level. As for battery life, I tested the fan at highest and lowest intensity across all 3 modes. When in cold mode, it lasted for 7 hours and 13 minutes at the lowest setting and 2 hours and 34 minutes at the highest intensity. At the highest intensity in hot mode, the neck fan lasted for 6 hours and 10 minutes, and at the lowest intensity, it lasted for 10 hours. At the highest fan speed, the neck fan lasted for 8 hours and 6 minutes, and at the lowest fan speed, it lasted for 15 hours and 11 minutes. When it comes to the comfort and fitting, there is an adjustable hinge in the middle which lets you widen the fan to put it on more easily, and you can also adjust how snug you want it to fit. I do have to be more careful when closing the hinge because it tends to pinch the skin at the back of my neck sometimes. The hinge on this neck fan can open up quite widely, much more than the Jisoo Life Pro 1 neck fan, which has the same hinge design. The opening is wide enough for me to fit my neck in with one hand. For reference, my neck measures about 31 cm in circumference, which equates to about 9.87 cm in diameter. Generally, this neck fan stays on very well and it has never come off before. Similar to my review of the Jisoo Life Pro 1 neck fan, it is not suitable to be used when running because the arms of the fan will rub against your skin, causing abrasion over time. I would recommend sticking to activities with lesser movement like brisk walking, strength training, or even cycling on the stationary bike in the gym. The weight was measured to be 520 grams, and although it is heavier than the Jisoo Life Pro 1 neck fan and the Taurus Coolify 3, I don't find it to be particularly strenuous for my neck, especially when I'm standing upright or in a sitting position. I only notice my neck getting sore when I'm lying on my stomach and using my phone for more than 15 minutes. This is the same issue I had with the Jisoo Life Pro 1 neck fan as well. And its larger size makes it quite difficult to keep in a small sling bag, and it will occupy quite a bit of space in your backpack. But since the neck fan doesn't really hinder most of my movements when I'm wearing it, I mostly just hang it around my neck the entire time when I do bring it out. Ranvoo claimed that it can charge at 15 watts of power, but I only managed to get 10 watts. It took 2 hours and 46 minutes to charge fully, which is about 15 minutes faster than the 3 hours claim on Ranvoo's website. You can still continue to operate the fan at maximum setting while it is charging. By connecting this to a power bank in your bag or pocket, you essentially get a hands-free, constantly running cooling fan on your neck. When I'm working near a power supply outside, I just keep it connected to the power outlet while setting it to the coldest setting the whole time. There is also a mobile app that lets you monitor things like battery life and ambient temperature, and you can also switch modes, adjust fan speed, and change the temperature of the cooling plates as well. One thing that I appreciate is that the connectivity is actually very good for this app. I have never failed to connect to it before. Many consumer electronics have companion apps that just refuse to connect, making it as good as not having them. But it is very seldom that I couldn't connect to the Ranvoo app from my neck fan, so I think that it is pretty well implemented. Now, I do want to manage your expectations here. all neck fans, not just this one from Ranvoo, they generally aren't as strong as handheld fans because neck fans typically reach up to 2 to 3 meters per second of fan speed only, whereas most handheld fans can reach 5 to 6 meters per second on average. Neck fans kinda have a limit to how strong they can go since they sit right under our ears, so if it is too strong, it will be too loud to be usable. However, the real value proposition of a neck fan is the fact that you can use them hands-free. This is especially useful when both of your hands are occupied, such as when you are cooking or you're moving around doing laundry, or when carrying heavy things. And that is where the convenience of neck fans really shines, because although they cannot provide that much wind, they can follow you around and provide you the constant wind that you need. And if you travel to places or live in places with cold seasons, then I would really recommend giving this a try because the warming feature is something that regular neck fans won't be able to provide, and it does feel seriously pleasant around your neck and hands. If you feel that you can benefit from this neck fan, I do have a discount code on the screen for you to save some money through my affiliate links down in the description below. Anyway, Ranvoo does have a 30-day return policy, which means you can give it a try for yourself and decide whether it is worth your money or not. If handheld fans are something that you're looking for as well, why not check out my review of Ranvoo's latest ultra compact handheld fan in this video over here. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.